I think it's working. I'm not sure. Great. So, and sorry, Dr. Motaz, would you like to carry on from where we left off?
Apologies for that. I hope the echo's gone now.
It's a little better. Yes, I think it is.
Great. It's just a change of device. So yes. So where was I? Orthopedic surgeon, NHS in UK. Also a keen business, well, not a business, but operational improvement for the NHS. I'm a subject matter expert for operational transformation improvement for the NHS. Have a bit of interest in the business world with an MBA from a Warwick Business School here in Britain a few years ago. So yeah, that's my overall background.
And did you say you were a spine surgeon?
No, foot and ankle.
Sorry, foot and ankle.
Foot and ankle.
Okay, great. And don't mean to put my foot in my mouth, but I just want to make sure that at least I know you're there to rescue me. I'd love to get Dr. Lee to give a little bit about his background, and then that'll also be good.
Okay, well, I'm a professor now, retired emeritus, but doing more research than ever at the University of Toronto. I made a transition some 20 plus years ago from the area of music, in which I was essentially teaching music teachers and performance and so on, into music and brain activity, and developed through courses in EEG and other things until I joined the collaborative program in neuroscience at the University of Toronto, and some years later became a board member. And so my work has all transitioned from, I no longer do anything in music directly, and for the last 15 years it's all been music and medicine research, or sound, and then sound vibration, which is where I connected with Dr. Khan and the treatment, which uses low end of audibility vibration, which can be called sound, but its effect is very different than cognitively processed music. But I still referee and edit a journal, currently a special issue of Healthcare out of Switzerland, on expanding the scope of music and healthcare. And so that's my field. I've been connected to science for very many years. I started as a chemist in a research laboratory, and then, or in a factory laboratory, a control lab. Became a science teacher in junior high school, and then slowly left that and became a music person, but always had the interest in the scientific side. So I've been connected with KKT NSI now since 2019, I guess. So this is 3 years this summer, and find the work very interesting and exciting, and has taken me in new directions that I would never have thought. Just a couple of days ago, published a paper on using the treatment case paper from Qasim and Saudi. And so, writing about spinal conditions was not in my original span of doing playing the violin and singing.
If you want to really know the real story behind Dr. Bartel, you'll have to listen to his YouTube, to his TED Talk.
Well, it's an interesting course path, I must say. From a violinist to research in effects of sound and vibroacoustics on the body. It's quite transformation. I thought my pathway was crazy.
Well, he's the global authority today when it comes to the field of looking at music and medicine generally, but really his broad approach to understanding how sound and how frequencies can influence the body, and a large part of it has gone into understanding how it works on the brain. And so that's and so we're very tickled by that. We think much of what we'll do in the future will revolve around how we're able to influence neural processing, and so. I was just, Lee, this is not the right venue for this, but I was just reading a paper the other day on treating a number of conditions using, and they were flickering light at low frequency, and there was it was a pretty large study. I don't know if you saw it. Did you recently?
I probably have, because I follow everything out of MIT with particularly 40 hertz light flicker. Because I actually published before they did on the effect of 40 hertz flicker on Alzheimer's. And so, yeah, it's of great interest, treating everything from macular degeneration kind of eye conditions with flickering red light to pulsed ultrasound and diabetic conditions. I firmly believe that the use of particularly gamma frequency vibratory stimulation, or what I call rhythmic sensory stimulation, whether it is at the specific cellular level or as a neuromodulatory device, whether it's vibrotactile, piezo-1 proteins, or just skin mechanoreceptors. It's in a sense all of a piece, and the future of medicine will see, I think, a lot more growth in that area, because we almost get daily papers now that are looking at this. My sort of lead paper in the healthcare journal almost a year ago with another one of our NSI research assistants, Dr. Mosabir, sort of points to the hematological, the neurological, and the musculoskeletal effects of vibratory stimulation. And it's an exciting field, particularly when one starts unifying this and looking at commonalities. And so that's really where I think NSI resides, in that exciting combination where we could affect, certainly at the musculoskeletal and bone level, as well as at the neurological, and they all interact in many ways.
I mean, Ahmed sent me a copy of that article on the train, and it's a fascinating field of science that I have not been exposed to before.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, it sounds impressive in a way, and it's quite far advanced, I must say, beyond what people are exposed to every day in our clinical practice. The furthest that we've gone is probably ultrasound waves to help bone union, to promote bone union. Mm-hmm. But nothing beyond that. But it was quite a thorough and paper, really, in the way it's approached things from a micro and macroscopic approach to what its effects are. And it would be very interesting to see, Dr. Khan, how did you come to thinking about your device, and
Well, Lee, I'm going to shock you, because I'm going to send you a video. Just when I thought, when the whole world believed that I'm totally unphotogenic, or whatever the term is, I was able to pull off a short video that talks about just this topic, Motaz, about how it came to be. It was a little bit of a journey, so I'll certainly try and see if I can. I think Hani is about to join us. So I will see if I can share that with you when it comes hot off the press. It should be coming off in the next couple of days.
Yeah, the exceptionality of vibration in things where you would not expect it is coming to me now, because we got funding a year and a half ago for a COVID study, and we proposed vibratory stimulation as a therapeutic, because there had been a study out of Sweden that found that vibration, or that nitric oxide, was a potent treatment against the inflammatory responses and so on of COVID. And so we have started this treatment. Recruiting was difficult, and many approvals of COVID was problematic, but just a few days ago, I saw the preliminary analysis on the first set of subjects, and it is just really very dramatic how we're getting and using what probably one of the best cognitive toolkit assessments from the NIH toolkit of cognitive assessment, and we're seeing considerably, fairly, I can't say highly, but at least a thoroughly significant improvement from 3 weeks of vibratory stimulation on these cognitive long COVID cognitive effects. So it's very encouraging to see this in multiple areas, and you know, consider the possibilities as we develop this further in all aspects of the musculoskeletal neurological connection.
And what exactly would you be assessing for long-term COVID patients? Would be assessing what progression their symptoms are having, or just, you know, the limitation in anxiety? Or
we're looking specifically at the cognitive deficits, so memory, okay. Cognitive clarity, word finding, those sorts of tests.
Lee, you might want to touch on the COVID study we published as well. That
yeah, we just have, it's just published. It's not yet out in a link, but Dr. Karim Beyonce was the lead on this case where COVID resulted in a neck problem, atlantoaxial issue, and we have seen how the NSI treatment can remediate that, and so that has just been accepted for publication and is making its way through into actual into the light of day any day now.
So I am no expert on this subject whatsoever, despite years and years of studying and practicing orthopedics. But if you would explain to someone, how does it work? How would you transform? How would you relieve pain through simple vibration?
Yeah, there's a good question. I'm not sure how much direct you want to go. I received from Dr. Khan the questions, Ahmed, that you had phrased in your slides, and I could quickly run through some of those to answer some of those. And I think that I might address what you just asked, Motaz. And I put some of this in a paper. I can share my screen if you like.
Yep.
And we can look at each of those questions in turn. Is that acceptable, Dr. Khan?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. By the way, just wanted to let you know that Ahmed's dad, Dr. Hani, is on the call as well. He's an anesthesiologist by trade, and then he went into the field of setting up the company, the medical device company. He was practicing once upon a time in Massachusetts, and then went and then moved to Cairo.
Okay. All right. Can you see my page?
Yes.
My page?
Yes.
And is it large enough? Can you see it?
Yeah. No reading glasses required.
Okay. So you were focusing in, as I saw, on the product, which I gathered was the NSI sonic treatment device. And I just wanted to upfront raise one of my considerations is that the product as the device, M3 as we're calling it, is really inseparable from the treatment. And so as we market this, we really need to bring the two together, or think of it together, because the device can be manufactured and sold, but without the trained and motivated practitioner, it is just another piece of junk. Therefore, the product is device plus training. So that's just an overriding thing. So in terms of the first question you phrased was, what is the mechanism of action, the theory of operation? And I pulled out a couple of things. This is from publications or documents we have, which is that the sonic treatment device uses sound waves, and you probably know that. That's the first explanation we give. And to relieve pain through spinal alignment, back, shoulders, and pelvis, and while enhancing the health of the spinal disc, ligaments, and muscles. So that's a very bold and rather large statement. And so some of the other things will unpack that, I think, as we get into the research and evidence, which was, I think, the crucial question.
Yeah.
When we say the sonic device delivers sound waves, what we mean is that it delivers accelerated, low frequency, kinetically directed impulses, or alkindi, which is a nice word to summarize that, which I explain as being accelerated, meaning they're rapidly increasing frequency curve. They're low frequency, which is at the lowest level of human audibility, and they're kinetically directed, which means very specifically angled and directed at body targets, and the impulses are sound-initiated microforce percussion waves delivered through a stylus. So that just sort of gives you the basic mechanism at which we do this. The question will come clear later. I have 10 points of actual sort of the mechanism, like why does it work?
Do you mind if I stop you there just before?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So is there any inflammatory relief factors other than amending alignment or restoring alignment? I asked that because it's one of the things that I use for my a group of patients with a disease called plantar fasciitis, where they do get a source of vibration, direct percussion vibration. It's the same machine used for destroying stones, renal stones.
Right.
But modified in a way, and it just recreates the inflammatory process that led to the fasciitis or that inflammation process in the first place. I wonder whether you had any kind of.
We assume there is reduction in inflammation, and research of, in the paper that I published in Healthcare argues for some of that. The current study we are doing in fibromyalgia at Baycrest Hospital and the COVID study particularly, we did a hefty blood draw, and we're analyzing it for some 105 cytokines, actually at University College London, with Dr. Jennifer Pocock, who is a member of that team, and with Dr. Arkady Uriash in Miami. And so the University of Toronto, Miami, and London are analyzing our blood and plasma samples specifically to look at inflammation, because we have theorized, and from other research evidence, not from our own, that the vibrational stimulation will in fact reduce inflammation. And so we expect to see that evidence within the next months as we wrap up patient recruitment and start looking at the blood samples. But other than that, we don't have direct KKT NSI evidence that we can post.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to interrupt. Apologies.
Dr. Motaz, we do treat plantar fasciitis, by the way, and I know
Yes.
you're referring probably to SoundWave.
Yes.
In terms of how it's applied, and the outcomes are usually quite exceptional. But we take a different approach to it.
Yeah.
So we take a different approach, and usually we see a change in the symptoms. We look for changes in symptoms within 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So within 3.5 minutes, we would go back, and if you on deep palpation, on the attachment sites, you can see whether the inflammation and the related discomfort has reduced or not. And usually, it comes out pretty good.
And how long would it sustain after that?
It usually will stay, but it has to be monitored, and you would have to treat the underlying sort of
source of
biomechanics, and so on.
Tight Achilles, tight gastrocnemius, so on. Okay, that's quite interesting, actually.
It's very interesting. Yes, for particularly, and we use it extensively for other sort of talocalcaneus injuries and things like that, where there's ligament stretching, where there's ligament damage. So the same mechanism that works in the spine. Yes. Where we apply to where we've shown in an effect on the disc at the cellular level, where we're able to upregulate some of the key proteins of the disc, those same proteins, of course, exist in all the ligaments and in fact exist in the brain as well.
Yes.
Particularly aggrecan and versican are very, very key to not only the disc, but to all ligaments and to the neural tissue as well. So we see a very rapid sort of upregulation of that. In all our studies, we showed immediate changes within less than 10 minutes of application in protein synthesis. And so there's a bit of a relationship there. So we usually apply for 3.5 minutes at a time, and usually we see the change almost immediately.
I'd love to see it myself. This, I'm getting more and more intrigued. Sorry, so apologies for interrupting.
No problem. So the second question is, what is it approved for? That is, what is the treatment approved for? And I hearken here to, the way we look at it, and through FDA and CE and so on approvals, the sonic or previous KKT treatment was approved for treatment of spine-related medical conditions. And it has been shown to be clinically effective for almost all types of chronic muscle, nerve, or joint pain, including back pain. And so specifically, we look at back pain, and you see the list of conditions there: neck and joint pain, so general neck pain, whiplash, shoulder pain, rotator cuff, etc. Nervous system, which of course is linked to spinal, so we're within that the range of that for the FDA approval. And head conditions such as headaches, migraines, vertigo. Specifically, this is from our FDA 510 submission. Lists that the KKT device has been developed for the aid and management of chronic pain, most specifically conditions chronic pain arising from structural anomalies such as misalignments and muscle imbalances, conditions of brainstem irritation as well to musculoskeletal imbalances that may arise from impact. And in relation to intended use from this FDA document, the KKT device, which we also read as NSI device, is to be used in the aid of management of chronic pain due to non-congenital defects, part of a series of steps in the total care of the patient involves the use of diagnostic imaging that qualifies the misalignment between vertebrae. The treatment is then administered using the KKT device to deliver precise impulses at a required vector configuration. So this was from a 2014 document. So that's what we're approved for. We're currently have an application in at the FDA for the expansion of this use away from just the spine to include direct treatment on the skull, to joints, and to abdomen. And so that will expand. This is based really on current use, and the research document that we supplied was drawn on our eHealth records from specific cases that used specific skull, joint, and abdomen treatment, and showing that there were no adverse side effects and that there were positive effects from it. So that's where we're at in terms of this basic question of what is it
impressive, actually. I mean, it's because I've sat in spinal clinics over and over again in my years, and there's such a gap in the treatment because chronic pain patients, there's not much that you can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you send them for physiotherapy, core muscle strengthening, facet joint injections, nerve blocks, even surgery. And in many cases, surgery comes back with a risk of chronic pain on itself.
Right.
And I wonder why why has this not been dispersed more, because there's such a need for it. And I'm sure many spinal surgeons that I've worked with who've sat in their clinics hours on end to deal purely with chronic pain,
mm-hmm.
would love to have that, gap filled by something that can, that I can refer to actually, deal with this chronic pain. Because at the end, the pain starts messing with their, with their psychological status, with their mental status, and along with morphine, along with long-term, opioid use, suddenly they're much more worse psychological status than as well as they are physically. And you know, it really does. And if you're FDA approved for this, why, you know, why haven't you ventured on, you know, dispersing this up till now?
Lee, I'm assuming you want me to answer the tough
Yeah,
questions.
I think well, got all the word.
Well, I think, Dr. Motaz, we you know, quite frankly, you know, we had not commercialized ourselves at all, and you know, and 1.5 million treatments later, today, you know, we never really did full on go commercial. We never had anybody on the sales side ever, and we did, you know, we did what we did. But with NSI, what we decided a couple of years ago was that, you know, at every cost possible, we want to make sure that we, you know, make this treatment available globally, and so we are ramping up for that. Part of our
Absolutely.
discussion actually is to have people like Ahmed be a part of our team as we go
Yeah.
forward. There is absolutely, as you said, there's a massive gap
Yes.
in medical care, and there is, and you know, you could drive a truck through it. It's such a big gap where it's either surgery or else you're doing things that have, you know, that are very, very superficial, unfortunately. You know,
Yes. Yeah,
very
absolutely.
superficial in terms of what can be done. And so we very much, of course, are targeting and directing our treatment right at the very, you know, very core, at the spine,
yes,
at
yes.
tissues that have been damaged. We go right at it, and with absolutely without hesitation, and our outcomes are pretty rapid in terms of what we see for outcomes. Some of the objective changes we see within minutes. Other changes we see where, because pain is subjective, over time, we start to see it evolving, and we see the outcomes, which are in most cases very, very promising. But having said that, you know, we are, you know, this big gap in care has, you know, has a lot of promise, and we're hoping that, you know, we can really, hopefully, you know, we can satisfy, most importantly, the patients at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
So,
I mean, this gap now is filled with some scientific and some pseudoscience, you know, in the middle, you know. So you have your pain therapy, pain teams, and you know, they're gonna be filling slots in and out of oxycodone, muscle relaxants, opioids. And then you have chiropractic, and you have, you know, then you start going into other pseudo kind of scientific areas. And people with pain are desperate at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah.
It's you know, especially lower back pain. 1/5 of the world's population at one stage will have lower back pain. And having a non-invasive methodology that is approved to help with that, and you know, is really, really exciting. And it's a pity that, you know, well, you know, you're on track now for the right way. But you know, I'm putting on my business mind here, you know, hat now, and I can see, you know, that there's, you know, there's such need for it. Surgery, you know, after years and years of practicing, surgery only answers around 65%. And of those 65%, 20% of them end up with worse chronic pain than they did before. A lot of it might not be alignment related, but a lot of it is chronic pain. And you know, if you go back to, you know, if you go to other applications, you have pelvic chronic pain and that is a massive market for things like this. So it's I'm just getting excited. That's probably why I'm kind of rambling.
Dr. Motaz, you know, for us, it's almost like boiling the ocean, and we have to really be careful that we, you know, we really target. And this is where people like Ahmed become very important, because you know, the strategy behind all of this
Yeah.
is going to be lovely to go through, because, you know, we truly have a, you know, a green field out there.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
we could take any sector and just go all the way through. Believe it or not, even the vet industry has been asking us for help. So they're saying, you know, we've got horses and
That's quite interesting.
and canine who are
yeah.
suffering, and, you know, what do we do? So
Yeah.
so there is an opportunity. One of the things that we have done, and this is a little off topic, but was that we've built our technology in the past couple of years to allow for it to be quite agnostic. So it can be fitted into various applications depending on the industry and on the. So, for example, if we're looking at let's say at podiatrists
Yes.
or surgeons, we would be saying, you know, hold on, here's a device that we can modify that can be used for your application, and that would be a sector on its own.
Yeah.
Or that could
Yeah.
be, you know, sort of
Yeah.
a field on
Well,
its own.
yeah,
So
I think it's positioning now. Exactly, it's where you
Exactly.
choose to, you know, to position yourself within the market initially.
Exactly.
And, you know, the more specialized you are initially, the more validity you gain for the area that you cover, and then you can expand beyond that. Slow creep afterwards. But yeah, that's a different discussion for later on for Ahmed to emphasize and elaborate on.
Okay, so I'll pick up Ahmed's third question, which is, where is it in the therapy protocol? And I'm assuming this means the overall therapy of the patient. The patient walks in, has lower back pain, and where does the device, the M3 device itself, fit into this? And so the sonic device is the key in all treatments and is used in every treatment session. The parameters to determine the treatment, however, which is delivered by the device, are currently set by specific X-rays in our proprietary Spinalytic software. So the person who comes in gets 3 X-rays taken of the C1 area. That goes to our Spinalytics analysis system that sends the parameters to the device. This is currently being replaced. We're replacing the X-rays with the 3D cameras. We're using 3D camera photos that then get processed with the Spinalytic software, and will present the treatment parameters to the new device that we're developing and have in prototype form. My last treatment of my neck was done with this new system, so we know that the effect to me was as strong as the old system. But around that goes the clinicians or the practitioners' use of 5 diagnostic parameters, which we educate, train the users in, which is to look at neck range of motion, leg length, arm and leg coordination response, tender lesion along the spine, and shoulder and hip tilt. And some of this, like shoulder and hip tilt and neck range of motion and so on, can also be done by this new 3D camera photo imaging system. And that provides both information as to what the specific treatment in the protocol is and what the effect is. So it's done both before and after this 3.5-minute treatment. So more, yeah, sure, go ahead.
The 3D camera, is that something that, you know, can replace completely all imaging required for body alignment, for leg length discrepancy, so pelvic tilt, shoulder girdle, lack of alignment?
It does shoulder and hip tilt and neck range of motion and head angles and so on, and from that, using essentially an AI type approach to a vast database of X-ray information in the Spinalytics, we can determine what the treatment parameters should be for the sonic device.
That's quite impressive, actually. Removing imaging altogether.
It's incredibly impressive. First time I saw it, I was blown away by how it picks up every sort of point in my body and follows it in angle and tilt, and can derive treatment from that.
And then you repeat it post-treatment as well. Yeah, post-session, it's repeated. And how many sessions? Say I have lower lumbar spine, L4-5 disc prolapse, or
Let me show you what then the therapy protocol is for the product. So that is essentially just the overview of where the device fits into the general therapy protocol. And then we have developed and are continuing to develop the the actual therapy protocol for the product. So these applications of these Alkindi waves, these sound waves, are applied to specific locations. And this is currently being refined and validated in a research study we have underway. It started about some 9 months ago, and we're still working on this. The first through retrospective look at our e-health records of specific treatments, and then we'll look at the whole clinical reasoning process of clinicians to distill this into a case where the device will be able to prompt the practitioner as to what the likely treatment should be in location. And it looks something like this. This is in a very preliminary draft, where if the person presents with neck pain, the treatment starts, and all treatments start, by the way, with C1. And usually for about 4 or 5, 6 sessions, the treatment is restricted to C1. If the pain is not resolved at the beginning of the 5th session, CZ, CZ, for American ears, CZ for us British ears, focal treatment is applied. So it's at the CZ location, top of the head, which is an EEG location. If the pain is not resolved at the beginning of the 9th session, C5 is then applied. And so we're looking at trying to find out what that normal sequence is of standard C1 plus what we call the focal treatments, the other locations. If the person presents with low back pain, treatment start with C1. If lower back pain is not resolved at the beginning of the 3rd session, L5 or S1, focal treatment would be applied. Lower back pain is not resolved at the beginning of the 5th session, CZ is applied, and so on. And so this is the sequence which we're trying to refine as we look at what have experienced clinicians who have had positive results done as they progress through to treating this. And notice, although the person presents with pain at L5, the person isn't being treated immediately there. We start with a C1 treatment because of the belief and the experience that realigning C1 leads to a realignment of the entire spine and the musculoskeletal system, including we can usually see after the first treatment or change in hip and shoulder tilt, for example. And so by that, we typically assume we may go through 12 sessions, and depending on the clinical model and the business model in the clinics, we could be selling 12 treatment sessions in a financial monetized package in that way, usually followed up then by something like 6 once-a-week follow-up sessions. These sessions, these 12, are usually delivered at the rate of about 2 or 3 per week. And so they're frequent sessions in order to maximize that the change. And so thoracic pain, again, starts at C1, et cetera. So we're working on developing this from the experience. Dr. Khan has been the master of this and has trained all the clinicians in the world up to this point from his experience. And so he is involved, has created this protocol approach. But as we go forward, we hope this will become more refined using both sort of an AI analysis of the 1.5 million treatments we've done, and how the 5 parameters information informs which particular focal point should be considered next in the treatment to make this a little bit more predictive from experience rather than relying entirely on a particular clinician's insight at that point.
Quite
we're
good,
also doing a study. We're also doing a study out of McMaster, Lee.
Yeah, that's the study that's that's currently developing and validating this. So we have looked at some 200 patient sequences from our health records already to look at how those clinicians have followed and how closely aligned they are to this sort of skeletal protocol. And we're now going ahead with a further analysis, which includes looking at the pain or minimal viable clinical outcomes and what we want to achieve at certain stages in the sequence and how that modifies or validates the sequence. So that's currently underway with McMaster's person.
Have you compared operators and different outcomes for different operators of this device, or does it not influence the?
Not quite sure what you mean by operators, Dr. Khan.
The person that uses the device.
Oh, that way.
Yeah.
That's what we've been looking at is by looking at 200 specific patients. We have a whole variety of particular clinicians.
Oh, okay, fine. Sorry.
To look at how that sequence varies. Okay. So some clinicians may be using more focal points or at different points, but we're trying to look at how that how people either follow this specific kind of skeletal protocol or how they depart from it and why they depart from it. So that's the next stage. We'll also include some interviews of clinicians to get into their clinical reasoning process. That is, when you see these results for when you do the 5 parameter analysis before the treatment, then they've had this in the last, say, that's 6 treatments. What's your decision, and why do you decide then to treat L5 or C, et cetera?
Yeah. You have a massive amount of data, 1.5 million people treated. Do you have the scoring system for those before and after, how they were pain related, or?
We use a VAS scale on everybody at the beginning, after 6 treatments, after 12 treatments, after 18 treatments. So in the sense of knowing how their pain is responding, we have that. We also use the Roland Morris in some cases, and we have the NDI. We use a variety of scales that are built into our patient intake form and the eHealth record system. So those can be triggered, including people who are catastrophizing their pain. So that goes to a catastrophizing scale. We can see how we reverse that catastrophizing and so on.
That's what you call big data at the end of the day. That's 1.5 million people, and
yeah.
You're applying deep machine learning to create algorithms from that regarding response for treatment, protocols for treatment.
That's the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
So for example, we presented a paper last fall in Paris at a conference. Dr. Karim did this, where we had analyzed 49,000+ X-rays of C1 to look at typical misalignment of C1 and so on. So that we have massive amount of data and X-rays that can be analyzed in a retrospective way.
Do people not feel taken back when you kind of hand over all this new knowledge to them? It's like I'm going to borrow Ahmed's analogy. You're like 30 years ahead. And then you go to people with this knowledge, and people are always afraid of what they do not know and what they do not fully understand. And if I hadn't had an introduction from reading this first, I would have been, taken back quite a bit by all this. I'm not a skeptic. I'm quite open-minded when it comes to this, but at the same time, orthopods are a group of grumpy surgeons at the end of the day. I'm not the best sample of them, but
we recently, in the second week in May, had an exhibit and presentation at the International Society for the Study of Lumbar Pain and lumbar spine, rather, ISLS, in Boston, and Dr. Khan was there, Dr. Karim. And I think what they encountered from the people to whom they showed this and talked I think, speaks somewhat to this. So, Dr. Khan, can you sort of tell us what kind of reaction you got from your typical orthopedic person?
Yeah, I think it was definitely, there was a bit of a wow factor that you guys can actually do this. That's usually the first thing, is that we thought this wasn't something that was possible.
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of that, like, is it too good to be true?
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of that. And then but the top guys in the world, so there are 4 people in the world today who are the godfathers of orthopedics, so to speak. You may know them: Dr. Punjabi out of Yale, White was out of Harvard, Dvorak in Switzerland, and then Nikolai Botak is in Australia. These are considered to be truly the godfathers of orthopedics, because they set sort of the tone of what orthopedics really was, beyond being just a glorified bone
Yes.
setter or whatever.
Yes.
So it was so they were, and they're all in their later stages of life, these gentlemen.
Yeah.
So when we were there, actually, this was my first opportunity. I'd studied about them 35 years ago, and so there were people who I had revered, but way back then. I used to read a lot of their papers, but I got to meet them for the first time.
Right.
Thanks to Lee, he made sure that I made it there, and so they were absolutely in heaven when they saw what we were doing. And they said, well, this is exactly what we predicted, and we knew this could happen. And so we're actually thinking of, hopefully we can pull this off if Lee can put enough pressure on Kareem, that we can get. I would love, before they call it a day, that we get all of them on one paper with us to do a study where we can cite all of them on that one paper. That would be historic for us.
That'd be a reference.
In the orthopedic world, it'd be great. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, But this was the first time ever that we had actually done a presentation to people. Mind you, I must say, the audience were very, very academic. They were not really orthopods out in the field. These were all full on, academics. And so it wasn't exactly, the kind of people that we would be speaking to adopt our system. But we're hoping next year there's a huge conference, you may know about it, the Spine Week in Australia. It's supposed to be, the get together of about 3,000, more than that. It's a huge group that are getting together. It's the biggest. So all the orthopedic societies are actually gathered through 1 week from around the world. And so we're hoping that we'll see how it goes if we decide to present over there or what we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's far away from what I've learned, what I've practiced my whole life, and at the same time, with the right positioning and the right evidence, I think you just have to take it easy on people, and don't tell them all this at once. They're gonna freak out if you start telling all this, because as you know, each year, surgeons are ruled by fashion kind of styles, like every year, like everyone else. This year it's the mini hips. Next year it's going to be, the hip with a big head, and next year, so it's quite common in the surgical world to get this, but to come and tell them, by the way, all those patients that come to your clinic and cry in front of your desk every week, we can take care of them, and you won't have to raise a finger to do that, and it's and it's not expensive, and it's not medication, and the patients will be happy. It's too good to be true, and it's far from our regular practice every day, and I think that's why it's it has to be the message has to be gently related to people to avoid that kind of because it's it's a completely different way of thinking about what the body, we treat human beings with metal plates and screws. We treat human beings with bits of metal that we open up and put them inside. We put pieces of silastic, pieces of, and that's our mentality as orthopods. And I'm sure that's the same, for you.
Yeah.
But for something so different that you say, well, just by simple vibration and percussion, you're going to respond in a very different way. It suddenly, it's a completely different way of thinking than we've been brought up our whole lives to think in a certain way.
Yeah.
As orthopedic surgeons, fix scoliosis, you open up the patient from top to bottom and throw 2 rods there and start, fine tuning those rods to make it in that way. So it's amazing, but it's it's a different line of thought altogether. I'm sure you're going to find this every time you speak to a group of spinal surgeons, is that modifying their heuristics over years of what they thought was the way forwards, and what and what you actually.
And it's this paradigm shift which is so difficult for people to do. And your earlier question, why hasn't this been promoted and spread earlier? And part of that is because the research base has to be there to really show. And so, as Ahmed asked, what evidence do we have to back this up? And that's really becomes a crucial thing. And that's why I lie awake at night thinking about how one can do this. And so what I threw in here is just a list of publications. I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm just going to actually run through it because I can send you this list and you can look up all these papers, or we can send them to you. But the early research, 2007, 2010 with Desmoulins at the University of Calgary. And then as time goes on, some of these are now 220, 221. This is this study, the precise mean axis of rotation, and also clinical research applications. Some of the stuff we're doing, which is not directly related to our treatment, but supports it in general. And then the case papers, which we have published most recently in 2021, 2022, which demonstrate and show how this treatment is having an effect. And then conference presentations, which we've done in the last few years. Some winning top prizes in terms of their presentation, and then some related publications. So this is sort of the general overview. But what I thought it might be more useful is to show you what I prepared for our website, which is sort of going more in the line of claim. And so does research show that sonic works? And the headline here is sonic treatment reduces pain and improves neck movement. So the question is, how do we demonstrate that? And so this study, which was in the list above, is one that actually shows that from a clinical study. And for the website, we'll go into the reference, a short summary, the abstract, and if people want to click on the archive. Second evidence for of this. In terms of a randomized, blinded, sham-controlled study of patients that show that this treatment was significantly effective, are cases that have shown this now. So the second headline, the second category, why is sonic effective on neck and back pain? The why, which gets at the mechanism, rather than just at the clinical evidence, although the clinical evidence in the first category convinces a lot of people, clinicians, but the academics and the scientists among us, and I hope clinicians also want to know why does it work. And so our first headline here is sonic improves spinal alignment, which it's a big claim that just treating C1 is going to change spinal alignment. And so we do have studies again of this in a randomized blind sham controlled study, which looked at this as well, the same one we had for the effect. And then there are full research reports available, of course, on all of this. The second headline, sonic treatment applied to the spine activates gene expression and improves spinal health. This is, the noteworthy one where we saw that when you apply this vibratory stimulation, that you actually drive messenger RNA expression, and particularly aggrecan, collagen type 1 and 2, decaran, and versican. And that is the remarkable thing as to how might this happen. And of course, it needs more potential research at that sort of microbiology level. But it is there in these studies, both in that study again and this one, research evidence 2 and 3. And then that's sort of the straightforward research then that we have done. Then I linked to this: the following 8 claims have not been specifically demonstrated with sonic treatment or KKT treatment, but the research evidence is substantially enough within the parameters of the sonic treatment to allow speculative application. So one of these, so this is sort of the other parts of the mechanism that I think is operating here, which is where more surprise lies. The sonic stimulates the spine at its most resonant frequency, as in the spine has a resonant frequency. This research study by Keller et al. Showed that the spine is most flexible in the category of vibration of 30 to 70 hertz zone. So when sonic applies 50 to 80 hertz, we're substantially within that zone at which the spine becomes most flexible, probably therefore allowing that realignment of the spine so quickly from a C1 stimulation. And of course, there's the full the abstract. Vibration applied to the spine causes neurotransmitter to reduce pain. Vibration activates the neurotransmitter adenosine in the P1 purogenic receptors in the dorsal horn, depressing the lower lumbar nociceptive neurons, resulting in an analgesic effect. So we often see very quickly a reduction in pain, both from C1 application and from the focal treatment. So remember the video of the young man which Dr. Khan treated in the knee. He had had a serious knee damage a year before, and he had had several treatments. And he gave him the excellent test, which I also did, and I also could have been videotaped. With my left knee was a sharp pain. I could barely get up off of a kneeling position, and so get into the praying kneeling position and then get up without holding on to anything. And this video shows that before the treatment he couldn't do it. After, he seemed to react in quite a painless form, and I know it happened to me. Where the pain went away, and this was a year ago. I was having this pain, and I probably had 2 or 3 treatments of that knee, and that sharp pain has never returned. It was quite amazing. Now, whether that was because of the neurotransmitter or the other effects on inflammation, etc., we don't know. There are several studies there. Sonic applies sonic vibration to the spine, closing the gate to pain transmission. So this is the Malzek pain gate.
The gate theory.
Yeah, I didn't put things in because it's fairly well known.
Yeah.
Sonic reduces pain by creating an interaction of specific brain regions. Less well known that the vibration applied to the spine affects cortical dynamics, specifically by driving the interaction of Brodmann areas 3A and 3B-1. This results in a pain reduction effect. So by applying CZ treatment, we may well be getting this reaction in the Brodmann areas rather than even reducing inflammation or so on. So if the pain has a neurogenic dimension, which a lot of chronic pain does, where the nociceptive pain has recruited brain regions and turned it into a neurogenic pain, we can specifically and directly address that neurogenic pain through treatment of CZ. Sonic reduces pain by re-regulating brain circuits. I've done a fair bit of work on this and personally met and invited Rodolfo Linas, who is sort of the father of modern neuroscience. He's in his 80s now. That chronic pain can be of neurogenic origin from dysregulated connectivity. This is usually a disconnection of the thalamocortical circuit. Sound-based stimulation that drives gamma oscillatory coherence can reset this circuit dysrhythmia and restore connectivity, thereby reducing the perception of pain. In a study that he did where they used, it's the second one here, where they actually used a sound sweep, not dissimilar to what we do with vibration. They found and showed with MEG imaging a very thorough reset of that neural activity. Sonic treatment focused on C1 also stimulates the vagus nerve, contributing to reduced inflammation. As we know, C1 atlas joint sits very close to the vagus nerve, and where we place it on the neck often is pretty much directly over a vagal nerve area. So there's a collateral effect of stimulating it. The vagal nerve stimulation has the effect of decreasing inflammation as one of its many effects, as you know. Sonic treatment can result in improved bone quality and quantity. One of my colleagues who is currently Lidan Yu, who is on our back pain study, has shown how low frequency, they call it high frequency here when it's in that gamma area, because they're thinking of whole body vibration in many cases, has the effect of increasing bone cell density. And so 20 to 90 hertz, which is the range we use, has the effect of reducing osteoclasts, the cells that degrade bone cells, thereby increasing bone cell density. And there's several studies and more that I could list, particularly that Lidan has done. The sonic treatment helps ligament repair. This is one of our big hopes, and one of the things that we need more research on. Vibration produces a positive cellular environment, and AXN A2 and Prolil 4 hydrolase, hydrolock. There's, you know the limits of my medical vocabulary. Hydroxylase are expected to help ligament repair and ACL cell proliferation by controlling cell membranes and intercellular matrix formation. So that's sort of the 10 big claims that we make from our own research or other research that we think may be the explanation as to why does sonic actually work. So back to the very first question, what is the mechanism? Like, how does this work? This is at this point the best overview explanation of why it does work.
I think it's. I don't think you've even covered all the mechanisms covering, behind how it works. I think it's still left for research to find more and more mechanisms of action. And correlations. That's quite a lot, and it's quite impressive. To be honest, I'm not sure, Dr. Khan, did you have this in mind when you first thought to make this device? What was your target initially?
Well, I was, a lot of this is fate. How I met Lee, for instance, was really trivial. It's very interesting how we met each other. My family thinks he's my bromance. So, and his wife came for treatment, and so there's a big, but I think what we definitely have appreciated is that I think what we've all come to appreciate is that whether it happens through us or in our lifetime or not, this space and this field has a huge future ahead. And hopefully we can sort of govern that and direct it in a way that is constructive for many people. There's a lot here that we haven't even covered about what we're doing. So, for example, on the diagnostic side, some of the things that Lee spoke about, the mean axis of rotation, for example, we've developed a software for that. That's a one of a kind out of McGill. And there we've built a whole platform. It's a product on its own. Let me just put it that way, because
yes, it sounds like it. It sounds like it from
it is very much
it does sound like it to be a product on its own, because creating something like that requires AI algorithms
Correct.
reach is you know, something people will go to the market with on its own without let alone without this device.
Exactly, exactly. I know
Yeah.
Dr. Kareem's very bullish about it, and he has all the top guys at University of California, San Francisco, who are all sort of chomping at the bits to see if they can get involved with us on that project. We've already built it; it's ready to go. It needs some tweaking. Lee's going to be maybe looking at it in the next, after a quarter or two. But it's taken about 5 or 6 years to prepare to build it, the whole software system that speaks to it. But it's tremendous. It's tremendous. Some of the things we've been doing, sort of quietly on the side. And so hopefully, as we start to go, as we start to build out into the future, the ability to take what technology is offering us today, whether in the form of data analysis, AI, some of these tools, along with, some of the developments on the hardware side and the computing side, and bringing it all together with very, very sort of a holistic sort of approach to clinical application.
Absolutely.
I think it is going to be very, very key. And with Lee and his lovely team behind him, to make sure that we're always on side with our claims and our approach to research and the future. I think it's very, very, it's very exciting, and hopefully, it'll live on beyond all of us,
Yeah. I mean, you've made something that only by time it will expose, it will, how far its capabilities are. I don't think that's something that, we'll be able to answer, or you'll be able to answer now. I think the more this technology dispersed worldwide, the more, the more research that will be done, the more comparative researches that will be done to, the more, it's like Gabriel Elizarov, who made the Elizarov frame back in Siberia. You didn't know at the time what his capabilities were of this device. And then, years later, a few aerodynamic engineers come over and make a completely different frame that's based on the idea, but its uses are beyond imagination. And I couldn't imagine an orthopedic life without having such a frame around. So I think I'm really impressed. I've got so many things in my mind running around now, trying to take all this in, but I'll have to take some time after to have a good read through it. I don't want to take the whole time of the meeting, so I'll thank you very much for gathering this for us, Lee. It's really compelling and really convincing, and I think it's just too wide and too large to be contained within whatever naming you put it. But it's vast, and there's a lot of business thinking on how this can be wrapped up into one thing, to start with, and then so people don't get overwhelmed like myself, like I feel now, and
Right.
start thinking where to start again and where to go. But I think that's I'll leave Ahmed to. But really, thank you very much for explaining and taking the time to put this together.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Dr. Motaz, as well, and thank you for your valuable time and
No,
really
not at
joining
all.
us tonight.
Not at all. Not at all.
I did
Very
want to
much.
ask Dr. Hani, if in case he's there, if he has any questions. With all due regard and respect, if he has any questions, we'd be happy to address that as well. But maybe he's on mute anyway. If there is anything, Ahmed, don't hesitate to have him shoot off a note to us, and we'll.
Sure. I will.
Yeah.
He was with us. He just sent me a message just a while ago. He might. I'm just not sure. He might have not.
He might have stepped out for a second.
He's on mute.
Yeah. He's on mute.
You got a message now.
Yeah, he just sent me. So yeah, well, I really appreciate everything you talked about, Dr. Lee. I appreciate your time. It's beautiful. I mean, the whole thing. It's so huge, and you can really start to dream about the whole thing and look into the future and imagine how this is going to be. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It's incomprehensible at the time being. And I think that, I mean, with with a lot of thought and a lot of thinking and a lot of processing of all of these ideas, this can turn into something really huge. And I hope that's what it's going to be. I really see NSI being the leader of this area, and you know, going into the next era with all these different ideas and all these different therapies, you know, and it's just something that's huge. It's beautiful. He's just saying that his mic isn't working. He just sent me a message saying that his mic isn't working, so he's apologizing for not being able to intervene. So yeah, I mean,
until we meet again, we'll call it an evening for you and an early afternoon for us.
he just said he's very enthusiastic for the next step.
Okay, great. Well, he's a very charming man, and
Yes.
I can't wait to hear what he has to say about us.
Charming is the right word. I think he's my father-in-law, so you know.
Is he really? Well, there you go.
Yes.
I didn't realize what the relationship was.
So Ahmad is my brother-in-law, so you know that's how he brought me onto this in the first place. He was talking about this while we were in Switzerland, while I was dangling my feet in a pool in somewhere over there, and he's saying, "Did you hear about this percussive therapy?" I said, "I'm not really sure what you're talking about." Something about shockwave therapy. I don't know. There's something much more deep and profound than what you're just talking about. But interesting. Never heard of it. I said, yeah, I'll send you some papers and have a read of it. So he reeled me into this slowly, and now I'm kind of I've swallowed the tackle and and the bait and that So I'm becoming an enthusiast myself. So.
Well, all in due time here, Dr. Motazi. We'll put it all together. Take care, all gentlemen, and it was again nice to be with all of you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Nice. Bye.